Hey, what's up, guys? It's TOS Friday with FIXITGEARWARE-SECURITY. As usual, the TOS Friday series is a presentation regarding offensive security, defensive security, information security, and other aspects of cybersecurity. So while we talk about these various tools and various topics in cybersecurity, we try as much as covering various sectors of the profession in the sense that we want those who are aspiring to be cybersecurity professionals to have these fundamentals or basic knowledge in these various departments. Because when you have this foundational knowledge and now go more advanced in the technical aspect of cybersecurity, it becomes easy for you to understand various topics and subjects that you are trying to learn regarding your chosen career path in the profession. So for this week, we would be doing the TOS Friday, focusing on blue teaming. And the core presentation today would be on a few strategy and tools that exist in the Windows environment that could assist the members of some blue team departments to run effectively their various diagnostic process in ensuring that they accurately fix a problem that exists in a computer system or server, depending on what infrastructure they are working on. So with that being said, let's get started. So for this week's TOS Friday, it's going to be a brief training or a brief presentation on system administrator and desktop support engineer and how they use the reliability graph in conducting various troubleshooting on a Windows environment. First, before we understand the reliability graph, let's understand the system administrator and desktop support engineer troubleshooting strategy. So when we talk about a system administrator, we know we're talking about the architects and maintenance of overall IT environment, right? And their job jurisdiction or area of focus has to do with the overall backups. So when we're talking about backups, we're talking about data, sensitive informations, and so on, right? Then also they are responsible in configuring policies. So when we're talking about policies, we're talking about an Active Directory environment where you will talk about update policies, software installation policies, password policies, and access to resources policies, right? Also, the system administrator is also responsible for managing the server, such as running updates and patches, configuring this server to ensure that this server has no security vulnerabilities that could be exploited by non-ethical hackers or malicious attackers. And not just that, we know that the system administrator job description also covers network configuration. So when we talk about network configurations, we're talking about configuring the SSH protocol, the VPNs, access control listing, and network segmentation. So in this case, let's say a network in host A should not have access to a network in host B. So these are part of the job description of a system administrator. Then finally, the overall IT systems that exist in that infrastructure has to be under their control. So when we talk about under their control here, we're talking about ensuring the systems are up and running and there are no failures that could last long and of course jeopardize the business function for a period of time, and also ensuring that the systems are up to date as well while running the various anti-malwares, antiviruses, and other security softwares that ensures the network on which these infrastructures are running are efficient and secure. Now, when we move on to the desktop support engineer, we know them as frontliners and system troubleshooters. So they are under the system administrator. Let's just consider them as more of like a technician. But in most organizations, we know the desktop support engineer also has the same hierarchy as the system administrator, in the sense that if the company is not quite a big one, you find yourself, performing both, which is of course the system administrator and desktop support engineer. So this hierarchy of the profession, the desktop support engineer, has to do with the end user support. So let's say Bob and Alice are working for FIXITGEARWARE-SECURITY, and Bob has an issue with his computer, right? So no need to be looking for the system administrator. If the organization, FIXITGEARWARE-SECURITY, has a desktop support engineer, Bob can just easily take his computer and meet the desktop support engineer and say, hey, Mr. Ben, my computer has an issue. Can you please take a look at it? So this is part of the role or job description of a desktop support engineer. And this also has to do with, personal user's computer. So Bob can say, okay, my mouse also is faulty. Can you, Mr. Ben, take a look at it? And not just that, they're also responsible for software installation. So let's say there is a new software to be installed on the system by the organization. Of course, the employee who is not a desktop support engineer or system administrator is not going to be able to do this because they do not have the right or belong to the policy group, okay, that is responsible to install that software. So in this case, they will not be able to do this. But when they take this computer to the desktop support engineer, if the DSE has been, configured by the system administrator to be responsible in installing those softwares, then the DSE will be the one to install the softwares. But in a situation whereby both professional departments exist as one unit, then of course means the instruction of the system administrator and the DSE will be done by one person. So furthermore, the desktop support engineer has to do with the day-to-day technical problems. So when you talk about day-to-day technical problems, we're talking about, like we said, your mouse is faulty, your keyboard is not functioning. Maybe you were in a Microsoft Teams meeting and you were not able to, hear the audio of the presenter. In this case, we know that the computer has a faulty speaker, or if you're using a headset, then your headset is not being able to, get the audio output, which of course we know it's the mic output issues or has to do with a faulty mic output port. So these are all day-to-day technical problems that you might come across, excluding the software aspect of using the system. So when you have this type of issues, the desktop support engineer is the one you contact, right? So once they're able to, get a hold of these issues, they have a various strategy they need to employ to be able to get to the root cause of the problem you as the employee or the end user of the computer is facing. And if we're talking about the entire infrastructure of the organization, then we're of course referring to the system administrator. So how do they go about this various strategy? First, they have to do a thorough system health check. So this could be either using third-party tools or inbuilt tools that are provided by Windows operating system, which of course the owner of this product is called Microsoft, right? Then if they are able to do the system health check and discover that there are no issues related to hardware components like the motherboard or USB port or battery lifespan or RAM, they will also move on to do some driver support check. So you should be able to know how to go about this driver support check, right? And if everything is checked and found efficient, the next thing the IT support personnel, in this case, the system administrator or DSC, would move on to do is to check for system updates, because there are instances whereby your system might not be fully functional because you have not run the latest updates that should make the computer effective. So the lack of these updates will also affect the computer. So aside the system update check strategy, there's also a situation whereby they have to also check for software update. So for example, we previously said about the Microsoft Teams, right? Also, probably you might be running an obsolete version of the Teams, which does not support the latest version of the OS patch that has been released by Microsoft. So this can also have these conflicting issues whereby you'll be in the Teams, you cannot be able to hear the presenter even when your mic or your headset is plugged, right? So they would also devise this strategy to check if you're running the latest software update. Now, aside this whole strategy, The employing of third-party tools such as EDRs, so which is endpoint detection and response tool, that has a very sophisticated manner of assessing the entire process in a computer, which includes the hardware component and software updates. These tools are also used by the system administrator and desktop support engineer in conducting the Windows operating system or server diagnostics to be able to uncover this problem. So having said this, there are quite a numerous strategies that these system administrators and desktop support engineers employ in troubleshooting various systems, which we are not going to go into details. It's not a training course. It's just a brief explanation to up your skills as a blue team expert. So aside this strategy, there's what we call the Windows reliability graph. And that we will be discussing in the next presentation slide. So you might be wondering, what is the reliability graph tool? The Windows reliability graph tool is a visual representation of the Windows OS and provides information on the stability of the computer system over time. This tool also provides this information via what we call a stability index. So for stability index, the value 1 represents the time in duration where the computer was least stable, and the value number 10 displays the information about a moment in time when the computer was more stable. So these numbers, as they represent, are based on the system failures and other events that has to do with the system reliability. And of course, the reliability graph was first introduced in Windows Vista. So if you're familiar with various operating system or versions of Microsoft, over time, we have the XP, we have the Windows Vista, we have the Windows 7, the Windows 8, the Windows 10, and the Windows 11, right? So over the years, Microsoft, as we know, has been releasing various versions of its operating system. So this tool was first introduced on that version known as Windows Vista 2007 and was implemented on Windows Server 2008. So how do you use this tool as a system administrator to troubleshoot problems? It helps you in identifying the graphical trends and pinpoints a period in time on issues that has been affecting the computer system, which you are trying to diagnose using this reliability graph. And this information, once gotten, will be able to give you an insight as the DSC, which is the desktop support engineer, information on how the system has been stable, the issues the system has been facing, and how to go about fixing these issues by getting more detailed information about the reliability graph information. So how do you assess the reliability graph diagnostic tool? There are two methods which you can assess the reliability tool. The first is by assessing the control panel, then assessing all control panel items. Move on to security and maintenance and select the reliability monitor. Alternatively, if you're looking for a shorter method or a short way to assess this tool, you just hit the Windows menu icon on your keyboard and type the view reliability history. And once the information pops up, select the graph and wait for the diagnostics to be conducted before viewing the entire information regarding that particular system. So here is a sample of the reliability graph, what it looks like. And this information, as you can see here, we have various dates and time when this computer has, failed or had issues, right? Here you can see on the 22nd of September this year, the information here was okay. Then on the 24th, still the same. On the 26th, we have a little bit issues and so on. So these various informations will be showing you live in presentation so you can see how you can use this in conducting your various diagnostics. Okay, so with that being said, let's assess the reliability graph and show you what to do. So here is a sample of the reliability graph, and here you can see the dates. Now here on this tab, we can see view by days or by weeks. So currently we are viewing by days, right? So let's select this one. So here you can see informational events, security intelligence update, Microsoft Defender. This is a summary, right? The dates. Now let's say we want to view this particular information. All we need to do is just click on view technical, and a detailed information about the entire process will be displayed to us. So you can see the signature and you can see the version, right? Then you can see the description. Of course, it's going to tell us if the installation was successful or not, and the date and time when this was installed in terms of the update here. Now, if we go back again, let's say we want to view this by weeks. We just select by weeks, and you can see the reliability graph here is by weeks. Okay. And starting here, we can see for September, right? So September 1, there is nothing, but a period in time here was information, right? And when we click on it, we can see the date is September 13, right? And at various time intervals, what was experienced. Now, if we look at this here, we have the source, we have the summary, we have the date, and we have the action, right? Now, this is for critical events. Let's minimize this so you can see. So this is for warning events, and this is for critical events. So whenever you select a portion or a segment of the reliability graph, always look out for these two. Okay. In some cases, not in all cases, when you have issues whereby, let's say a system was compromised by a malware, that is when you need to check the informational events. Okay. The reason why you should also check the informational event is that you want to notice or you want to discover what was updated. Okay. So let's say something malicious was discovered here. It's going to give us an insight of what was there that was updated. Okay. How do we put this more simpler for you? Okay. Let's say there's a malicious installation that is on the system, right? And has been configured by the attacker or the hacker that compromised the system to fetch updates. So if you are conducting a forensic investigation or you're analyzing the system, that is when you should check the informative or the informational events to see what has been updated by the system. And of course, track that particular application. So back to what we're saying, here we have the critical and we have the warning. So these are the two areas of focus you should be looking on whenever you try to assess the reliability graph. Okay. So here, let's click here. We can see the first error is Maxton, right? So Maxton here stopped working. It's a browser. Definitely might be update or maybe some scripts we are running on the browser like VPN script, and our anti-malware or antivirus, pause the scripts from executing with the sole purpose of analyzing these scripts to be some sort of script that tries to assess our location. In this case, if it's a VPN, right? So it tries to block it. So you can see here, it's here. Now, if we click on view technical details and we select it, you're going to see the fault. So it's going to tell us the path where this software is. You can see this is the path. The problem is app crash, the version, the fault model, the fault model versions, additional information. So these are like string information of the application, right? And you can see bucket ID. So this can also be used to track the information. Now we can actually copy this to clipboard and try to do some further research to, detect other problems that has been reported regarding this version of the application, in this case, Maxstone, right? Now, going back to the critical, here you can see we have the system info cap, right? So we right click again and we say view technical details. And you can see here it has to do with HP custom. Okay. So this software is responsible in getting information about the system when we try to use the HP diagnostic tool to diagnose the system, right? And of course, if you look at the date when this happened, it happened on the 12th of September at exactly 8:46 a.m. And of course, you can see the status, the report was sent. Okay, so once this report was sent, Microsoft and HP will get to look at this report and of course, fix the problem and deploy updates remotely. Now, let's see on warnings. Here has to do with gaming information such as the Xbox gaming overlay, the Microsoft, your phone, cross device, your phone. And if we click on view details here, don't need to right click here. So we click on view details. It will tell us what was the error. So here you can see it says failed Windows update and the date and the time, and of course installation failure, and tells us the error code. So this error code, we can use it to research more information about this Xbox gaming overlay via the internet or on Microsoft forum. Okay, so there is more to this tool. We wouldn't be going into details. We cannot save this reliability history. Okay, if you want to save it and go through them individually, you can do that, or you can view all problems by clicking this. You can, see in June, when you click more information will pop out. When you click more information will pop out. And you can see almost everything the report was sent based on the configuration on the system. So here is for HP. Here is for the Maxstone we just discussed, right? And this is, of course, for McAfee personal security, right? Now, this one is unexpected shutdown. So let's click on this. I show you something. You can see hardware error. So for this hardware error, it has to do with the USB. Okay, so when we plug the USB cable to this device, the USB wasn't functional. Of course, that triggered the information for the hardware error. And for this shutdown unexpectedly, this happened a few months back when Microsoft released some sort of update that made the system unexpectedly shutting down, and that gave a blue screen of life, not death. So here you can see the information, right? And it tells us the date when this happened. And you can see not much error about the system because we are always keeping our systems up to date. But a few of the errors that we have are not really critical errors. Okay, they are just more of like warnings, what happened in terms of update not fetching. And this update not fetching can also be as a result of your router configuration. So you can see these are all criticals, right? So we do not have much on criticals. And if we click here as well, you can see the critical is not much. It has to do with just applications and of course, yeah, Acrobat, of course, if you're using Adobe, right? So like I said previously, we do not have any criticals that has to do with the system. Most of them are warnings, and these warnings are based on updates. So once the systems are no more in use, we always switch off our connectivity in terms of our Wi-Fi connection on our computers. So, and of course, we configure the system to always fetch updates regularly from Microsoft and apply these updates once they have been tested, right? So these warnings are as a result of trying to fetch these updates and not having internet access. As you can see here, 12:09 a.m., failed update, failed update. So these are just warnings that has to do with updates when the system cannot have internet access. Okay. So with that being said, we hope you have learned something new. And with this strategy, you can also implement it as a system administrator or desktop support engineer. Like it's always said, before you're able to solve a problem, you have to identify the root cause of the problem. So always identify the root cause of a problem before troubleshooting. Don't just experience a problem and the next thing you have to do is, start researching on the internet to get softwares to install on the system and diagnose the system. Always use these inbuilt tools that have been provided by Microsoft. They are the first go-to reliable tools you should use. As a matter of fact, using third-party tools should only be when you're handling a very wide network infrastructure, because you cannot be going to each computers, right, to run this reliability graph. So you need some tools like the EDRs, right? But if you're not dealing with computers that exceed, let's say 50, or let's say you're not dealing with computers that exceed 20, right? It's not necessary to always, download third-party tools and install. This also keeps you safer when it comes to security in terms of securing the computers, right? And not falling into the problems of downloading malware without the intent to do so, all because you want to resolve a problem, right? So use this tool, implement it with various blue teaming skills you have in cybersecurity as a system administrator or desktop support engineer, which is the DSC, and improve your skills. Keep learning, keep improving, and do not forget to subscribe as well, because we'll be bringing out these informations from time to time. While this might not be part of a basic knowledge, but we believe in our own strategy, these are considered to be basic knowledge that we want you to include in your strategy. And of course, become good in whatever you do in cybersecurity. So that's it for this week's episode, and we hope you've learned something new. If you find this video interesting, please do not forget to give us a like by hitting that thumbs up button, subscribe by hitting that subscribe button, and of course, punch the notification bell so you'll be the first to get notified when next we make another video on TOS Friday with FIXITGEARWARE-SECURITY. Thanks for watching and see you next week. Bye for now.